Brajajana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Radha Madhava Radhe Jayo Jagannatha Jayo Baladeva Subhadra Mai Jayo Sudarshana Jayo Nitai Chaitanya Jayo Nitai Chaitanya Nitai Chaitanya Jayo Nitai Chaitanya Jayo Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Let's start with a small invocation. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraet nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktirbhavati naishtaki mukam karoti vachalam bhangam nagayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande shri gurum dinataranam paramananda madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Sat Hare Krishna. Okay, welcome all. It's a special class on Prithu Maharaj. So today we'll be reading from Canto 4, Chapter 21. Just sharing my screen here. Chapter 21, Instructions by Prithu Maharaj, and Shloka number 23. Tasya metad anushtanad yan ahur brahmavadinaha loka hasyukama sandoha yasya tushyati dhruk dishtadruk. Tasya metad anushtanad yan ahur brahmavadinaha loka hasyukama sandoha yasya tushyati dishtadruk. Word for word meaning. Tasya, his, me, mine, that, anushtanat, by executing, yan, that which, ahuhu, is spoken, brahmavadinaha, by the experts in Vedic knowledge. Lokaha, planets, syuhu, become kama sandohaha, fulfilling one's desirable objectives. Yasya, whose, tushyati, becomes satisfied, dishtadrak, the seer of all destiny. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: Maharaj Prithu said, I think that upon the execution of my duties as king, I shall be able to achieve the desirable objectives described by experts in Vedic knowledge. This destination is certainly achieved by the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the seer of all destiny. Purport. Maharaj Prutu gives special stress to the word Brahma Vadinaha by the experts in the Vedic knowledge. Brahma refers to the Vedas, which are also known as Shabda Brahma or transcendental sound. Transcendental sound is not ordinary language, although it appears to be written in ordinary language. Evidence from the Vedic literature should be accepted as final authority. In the Vedic literature, there is much difference in much information, and of course, there is information about the execution of a king's duty. A responsible king who executes his appointed duty by giving proper protection to all living entities on his planet is promoted to the heavenly planetary system. This is also dependent upon the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. It is not that if one executes his duty properly, he is automatically promoted, for promotion depends upon the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It must ultimately be concluded that one can achieve the desired result of his activities upon satisfying the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed in the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Ata pumbe dvijashreshta varnashrama vibhagashaha swanashtitasya dharmasya samshaddhir haritoshanam. The perfection of one's execution of his appointed duties is the ultimate satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. The word kama sandoha means achievement of the desired result. Everyone desires to achieve the ultimate goal of life. But in modern civilization, the great scientists think that man's life has no plan. This gross ignorance is very dangerous and makes civilization very risky. People do not know the laws of nature, which are the rulings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they are atheists of the first order, they have no faith in the existence of God and his rulings, and therefore do not know how nature is working. This gross ignorance of the mass of people, including even the so-called scientists and philosophers, makes life a risky situation in which human beings do not know whether they are making progress in life. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 7.530, they are simply progressing to the darkest region of material existence, Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram. The Krishna consciousness movement has therefore been started to give philosophers, scientists, and people in general the proper knowledge about the destiny of life. Everyone should take advantage of this moment and learn the real goal of life. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shri Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, Hare Krishna, welcome all. So it's a nice topic that we have today on Prithu Maharaj's story. And thank you all for joining. I know we wish you a happy Makar Sankranti, an auspicious day. We had a lot of nice events that have happened today. So I'm hoping we have a break and of course the festivals. So thanks again for taking time and joining. Okay, so Prithu Maharaj is now giving instructions to his citizens. So to understand this, we should go back a little to understand why should someone give instruction on the real purpose of the government and the leadership. That's what we'll be seeing today. So little bit of background, right? So we'll start from King Vena, the father of Prithu Maharaj. So King Vena was, to keep it simple, a dharmic king. That he wasn't following the dharma. So in his rule, the brahmanas, the women, the children, they were not very happy. So we saw how the Brahmanas in the society cursed King Vena to die, keeping the story simple, right? So King Vena left the body, he had no descendants, and the rogues and the thieves in the society actually flourished. So the people who were struggling, Mother Earth stopped producing enough grains and minerals for the citizens to live happily. So when this happened, the Brahmanas, the qualified people in the society, decided that we need descendant. We need someone who is a strong leader. And that's how they churned the body of King Vena, and from there came Prithu Maharaj, Mother Archie, and the other part of the story I will park it for now. So Prithu Maharaj, like Lord Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanarthaya. So to re-establish dharma. He comes. So Prithu Maharaj is a Shakti Avesh avatar of the Lord. So he comes in and he does a lot of things. Firstly, he re-establishes the dharma. So the economic development of the society, the people became comfortable, became happy. So Mother Earth started producing. So, and the rogues and the thieves stopped, right? So as a king, he did his basic duties. So as he established, he met the demigods. We have that nice pastime that goes on. After that, so in the just before the previous chapter, a couple of chapters back, he did one of the big activities, which was he decided to do the 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas. And we all know this story, so keeping it short, he we learned the very important lesson of 99 greater than 100. We keep discussing this, right? So why is 99 greater than 100? Because if he had done 100, he could have become the next Indra, but because Indra came and stopped the 100th Ashwamedha Yagna, he could finish only 99. And because he did not do the 100th, he was asked not to do the 100th. So he got the association of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma asked him to stop. When Lord Brahma was pleased, Swayam Narayana, Lord himself came. So he had the darshan and the blessings of Lord Narayana in the previous chapter. So with this, Prithu Maharaj established himself as the most qualified and the worthy personality. So in the beginning of this chapter 21, we see the citizens, the priests actually glorifying Prithu Maharaj. So in the previous class, His Grace Ramchandra Prabhu, yesterday he was giving the class, he spoke about how Prithu Maharaj followed the Vedas and established his citizens. So I'll not dwell deep into it. I'll dwell into a topic today, which is about how Prithu Maharaj is instructing. This chapter itself is called Instructions by Prithu Maharaj to his citizens, right? So in how Prithu Maharaj was instructing his citizens on the real purpose of the government and leadership. There are a few nice lessons that we can learn about leadership here. Before we dwell into individual pieces in the puppet, I'll probably tell a nice small pastime that as recently as last week we heard from His Grace Dinabandhu Prabhu, who was here in Bangalore, right? So he told a very nice pastime, so I thought it relates to this nicely. So he said, once I was traveling with Srila Prabhupada, Dinabandhu Prabhu was traveling with Srila Prabhupada, and they enter into a nice temple, a small nice temple that was established. So as they enter, so he correlated with our Jagannath temple. He said the entry to the altar was around the same distance that we have today. So as they enter, Srila Prabhupada turned to Dinabandhu Prabhu and says that looks like there's something in the eyes of the Lord. There's some dirt or something in the eyes of the Lord. Dinabandhu Prabhu looks in the eyes of Krishna. So Dinabandhu Prabhu looks and he doesn't find anything. So he tells others, the others look and they don't find anything. Srila Prabhupada says no. So as he goes closer to the altar, to the Vyasasana, he walks further, he comes closer. They tell the Pujari, looks like there's something in the eyes of the Lord. So the Pujari looks and then they realize that a small drop of the tilak was actually touching the eyes of the Lord, was on the eyes of the Lord. The Pujari immediately fixes it. And Srila Prabhupada comes back, continues. Dinabandhu Prabhu mentions that Srila Prabhupada was very particular when it came to services, when it came to the Lord, when it came to the deity services. More importantly, Srila Prabhupada was a very perfect leader. He was very distinct in what he wanted to communicate. He was not finding faults, but he was actually finding the for the pleasure of the Lord what needs to be done, and he was giving the right instructions at the right time. So as we hear about Srila Prabhupada, as we hear about the various acharyas, the important takeaway here is, as a duty of a leader, as a duty of a king here, Prithu Maharaj, what is he doing? Right. So the very translation talks about execution of my duties as king. That's what Prithu Maharaj says. As a responsible king who executes his appointed duty by giving proper protection to all citizens on his planet, is promoted to the heavenly planetary system. Right. So this is what Srila Prabhupada has translated. Just by executing his duty properly as a king, no, the heavenly planet, or the doors to the heavenly planets, are open for the king. Right. So in the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, Lord Krishna says, Shloka 32, he says, Yadrichaya chopapannam swargadvaram apavritam. Sukhina kshatriya partha labante yuddha vidrisham. He's telling Arjuna that, look, this swargadvaram is open for someone who follows his duty. In this case, the duty of a kshatriya to fight. But if a king properly does his duty, the minimum guarantee is heavenly life. Right. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, you will see your Bhishma Dev instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj. Right. So in that, he tells about what is the duty of a Raja. Right. So Raja Dharma, he speaks about it. Even Parikshit Maharaj, it is mentioned. Right. So in Kapila Dev Shiksha, in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, this duty of a king to establish citizens in the proper way is many times mentioned. So we have seen this in the past, right? So if he just does his duty properly for the welfare of his citizens, his heavenly life is guaranteed. Now we'll go a little further, right? So as a leader, so if you see Prithu Maharaj here, re-established the economic stability, right? So he re-established the moral principles, the rogues, thieves, they were all stopped. And just he didn't stop with that, right? So when he did his Ashwamedha Yajna, when he had his priest speak, when Swam Narayana came to speak to him, he's instructing his citizens on a very important topic, that is progressing spiritually. So a leader has to understand that it is his responsibility to ensure that his dependents progress spiritually, not only stick to materialistic things. And when the citizens cooperate with such a leader, they become peaceful, they become prosperous, and they go back home, which is the goal of life. That's what is mentioned here. Right. So we'll dwell deep a little bit into this leadership as a quality. Right. So that's the topic for today. So if you look at modern day leaders of the society, right? So you don't have kings anymore. So it's a very democratic society. Srila Prabhupada condemns it a little bit here and there, right? So firstly, leadership is a service, right? So what happens to modern day leaders? If you look at non-devotees who become leaders, the first thing they do is exploit their people, right? So they are not bothered, not necessarily bothered about the welfare, more from the spiritual angle, right? They're just not worried about it. They are looking at how can I enjoy with these people with me, right? So the more votes I have got, they will enjoy. So typical vote bank politics, right? So if you go back to our COVID days, right? So the best of examples that we can remember is how many of you remember what was the first thing that opened after COVID? What did the government permit after COVID? Right, the first thing that opened after COVID were the liquor shops, because the government was more interested in ensuring that the money keeps flowing into the treasury and into the bank accounts, right? Where is the money? The money is when people go to liquor shops, when people do shopping, when probably we were in college, younger days, when we had this 9/11, right? So the bombing of the Twin Towers, big, big issue, right? So when the world was almost at a standstill, the then president of US, what did he tell his citizens? Go shop. We can re-establish our country only when you people shop and spend money. So the government is looking more from a treasury perspective, more from a vote bank perspective. Today's government, right? So, but when it comes to the real leaders, Srila Prabhupada condemns or criticizes many of today's leaders, and he says that the right way to establish leadership is following the Vedic Dharma. Like, so leadership is a responsibility, it's not a privilege. Okay, people follow what the leaders do, right? So we have heard this in the Bhagavad Gita. It is mentioned, yadyat acharati shreshta tattad evitaro janaha sayat pramanam kurte lokastad anuvartate. Right, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Yadyat acharati shreshtas. So when you have the right leader, a leader who does his duty properly, then common men follow. Why is it important for us? I mean, why is it important? All of us, in some way or other, act as leaders. We can be called as Bhakti Vriksha leaders, Southern leaders, or whatever, service leaders, and so on. But even otherwise, we have our responsibilities to our people, to our family, to our children, the way we educate them, to our close ones. We act as leaders. We set those examples. So when we set exemplary standards, then when people follow us, spiritually connected, then we are actually doing justice to the name or the role that we have as leaders. Right? It mentioned in the Shastras that don't become a father, Guru na sasyat, Janini na sasyat, don't become a father, don't become a mother, don't become a guru, don't become a king if you can't deliver your people. Right? So we all have a very responsible position. So, like I mentioned, leadership is not a privilege, it is a responsibility. Right? So, in this connection, we can look at a small, nice pastime that we hear from the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So, the story of Chitraketu Maharaj. So Chitraketu Maharaj, so you might have heard this, so many versions of this story are there. So I'll just keep a very simple version of the story. So Chitraketu Maharaj was once passing with his people and he saw Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati being seated on the lap of Lord Shiva while there were all the sages in front of him and Lord Shiva is speaking to them. Chitraketu Maharaj looked at this and laughed, and he condemned Lord Shiva in a way. And Mother Parvati curses Chitraketu Maharaj. That's a very nice pastime. Go read the sixth canto of Bhagavatam. But net, he criticizing Lord Shiva. Many of them feel it is not correct. Lord Shiva is such an elevated personality. He having Mother Parvati on his lap doesn't mean it is wrong. And Chitraketu Maharaj, in his defense, speaks a very simple thing. He says Lord Shiva is not wrong, but people might quote him as an example. People might perform wrong things, thinking saying that okay, when Lord Shiva can do, I can also do. Srila Prabhupada keeps condemning this, right? So where people go to Himalayas or go to places like Kashi or Varanasi and say that okay, Lord Shiva is drinking ganja, I will also drink ganja. So Srila Prabhupada says, yeah, Lord Shiva is drinking, he drank the poison, he became Nilakanta, you also drink poison, right? So we can't just imitate, but people might take it wrong. And that's where Chitraketu Maharaj said, my dear Lord Shiva, if you do such things, yadyad acharati shrestha, the janas will follow tattat evetaro janaha. So please do not do this. That was his defense. Of course, what happened is because of that association with Lord Shiva, in fact, he got delivered. Chitraketu Maharaj does get delivered. But that's a different part. But as leaders, it's very, very important that we follow certain standards, right? So it's a very responsible position that we have. Uh, Srila Prabhupada, in fact, criticizes today's godless society, godless government. He says that it's blind leaders leading the blind followers. He calls democracy as demon crazy, right? So uh, the unqualified people select an unqualified person to rule them because both of them are blind. Where are they going? They're just going into the deep, deep dark well, right? So that's like the Shastras say, right? So we are in the deep dark well, and that's what these modern day leaders are taking us. So in this connection, I thought we should discuss two very important aspects, two very important points. The first one is how do we actively participate, right? So can the ISKCON practically influence modern leadership, modern day society, modern day leadership? It's not new. It's not new. Till earlier times, the kings were directed by the qualified brahmanas everywhere, even a few 100 years back. But today, that's not the case. So, can we do something as a responsible members of Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's society? We need to look at how we can influence modern society, modern day leadership, and you might see that happening in patches. Srila Prabhupada, in fact, tried his letters to people like Indira Gandhi, the President of India, at one point in time, saying that establish this very important thing as your culture, the Shastras being the base for the society to progress. Otherwise, you will just replicate the Western world and go nowhere. The people will become very materialistic. It's happening in small pockets. I have this very practical, very nice example that I keep hearing, I keep seeing from devotees. For devotees who know, his case Balram Govind Prabhu in Madurai. He established a very nice temple of Radha Krishna in a place called Tirupalai in Madurai. Right. So if we just hear about him, it's so nice. So he's next generation disciple of Srila Prabhupada, right? So he's disciple of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj. So um, he runs a jewelry shop chain in and around Tamil Nadu. I think he's expanding elsewhere as well. So fairly rich person. He dedicates his living to spread Krishna consciousness, right? He takes people to yatras and all that. What he does as a leader is very wonderful. So he's owner of multiple shops, and what he does there is every day in the morning when his employees, not necessarily devotees, so when his employees come in, they all do an arti and chant Hare Krishna before they start their work. It's mandatory for everyone. And even after being such a big leader, he ensures that every day, wherever he goes, he has a huge tilak. He's not worried about what people will think. I have to be, socially acceptable. The people from different religion have to come and buy in my jewelry. No, my focus is Krishna. So he's a very big example of a perfect leader. And these are the kind of personalities who can influence the society. And we need to look at what is the small role that we can play. What is the role that we can play? So does it mean that leadership is restricted to only such people, very high level people? No, each one of us, like I mentioned earlier, each one of us have a role to play. But as we are playing that role, there are a few practical lessons that we can learn from the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, from the conversation that we have had here in Pitu Maharaj's story, in Kapiladev's story, and later we'll hear a few more important lessons. So I have listed down a few lessons here, practicals for ISKCON leaders as we go. So the first point was, can ISKCON practically influence modern leadership? The second point that I was looking at, what can we do in the temple to cooperate? What does it mean between the leaders? The first thing, as leaders, whatever responsibilities that we have got, whatever service that we're executing, when we have anyone who is also part of our service, it could be peers, it could be people who are working with us to get a service done. every decision that we take as a leader, we have to ensure, is this decision pleasing to Krishna and beneficial for the devotees? When it's beneficial for devotees, that means they are progressing very nicely spiritually. So these are two things we'll have to definitely take. So what is our responsibility as authorities? We have to give protection to our people. Like we can take the example of Prathu Maharaj or whoever it is. When someone is doing a service, we should ensure that they are protected. Give them guidance spiritually, not letting them fall off. And more importantly, or most importantly, we inspire them to do better in their service. We inspire them to become closer to Krishna. So a leader is not someone who blocks or who dominates, says that this is my service, this is my area of service, do not enter. But rather, a leader can step back and give the responsibility to someone else. And if something fails, he owns it up. That's when people will start trusting you. When you inspire people, when you can build that trust among people, then you actually progress very nicely. We have wonderful examples of leaders in our ISKCON Sheshatripuram itself. I mean, not going all the way up, right? So we might have lost some of the leaders like His Grace Sachidulal Prabhu or His Grace Anadi Jagannath Prabhu, but they have influenced so many devotees. They have inspired so many devotees. I think many of us at least have connection with one of these names that I've mentioned, right? There is a lasting impression that they have created, and that's a guiding principle that we should also take, we should also follow, saying that I should act or follow in their footsteps. We are called anugas, right? So we don't blindly copy what they're doing. We saw that example of Lord Shiva, don't blindly copy, but we are anugas, rupa anugas or Prabhupada anugas. We actually follow in their footsteps, where we protect, we guide, and we inspire devotees to do better or devotees to do more and step back and not dominate. So that's a very important quality. The next quality of a leader here, Patu Maharaj, if we hear his story, you would understand that it's very he's very strict on himself and very merciful to others. Meaning that I can be an ideal leader only if I have my sadhana or very strict on my Krishna consciousness activities. It could be my sadhana, it could be my etiquettes. Sadhana and sadachar, very, very important. And my seva, right? So when we keep talking about each of these 5 S, we can continue. But basically speaking, we are very strict to ourselves. We don't take things lightly, but we are really merciful to others when others come in, when they have certain difficulties, when they have certain challenges, we actually clear the road block that they have and not become a blocker. Oh, this person is always like, oh, this person is never going to come on time. No, what is not helping them come on time? As a leader, that's what we need to think. But as leader, we cannot compromise. Oh, that person is, that senior devotee actually does not read Bhagavatam every day. Why should I? That's not an example that we take. So we should be very strict on ourselves and be very merciful to others. And lastly, uh, covering all these points is ISKCON leaders are not independent authorities. Okay, they, I mean, as leaders, right? So the decisions are based on Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Guru, personal spiritual master, or Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Sadhu Sangha, we keep talking about Sadhu. So when we are in association of Vaishnavas, especially senior qualified Vaishnavas, we progress. And lastly, the Shastras. That's what we have been discussing here, right? So we started with that in the purport. You would see that according to Dharma Shastra, according to the uh, Vedic instructions that are mentioned here in the shloka itself, right? So we follow the Shastras. Here the word Brahmavadinaha is used by the experts in the Vedic knowledge. You take the experts' information and the Vedic information. So with Guru Sadhu Shastra, we can take decisions that are beneficial for everyone and pleasing to the Lord. Right, so that's the first lesson that we learn as leaders today. We'll continue. We have a couple more lessons and then we can see if there are any questions. The second one here, continuing on this, Brahmavadinaha part. So evidence from Vedic literature should be accepted as final authority. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. Citizens should follow dharma, perform prescribed duties, and cooperate with the leadership. Right. So if we remember the Shri Upanishad, Ishavasimitam Sarvam Shloka, Srila Prabhupada actually elaborates on this concept of Vedic literature, Vedic knowledge. Firstly, the Vedic knowledge is perfect. Vedic knowledge is perfect. There is no doubt. Just because we don't understand, just because modern science doesn't cooperate or coexist in all cases with Vedic knowledge, we should not just blindly reject Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is perfect. Even today, I mean, today, if you're following, celebrating Makar Sankranti, it is mentioned in the Shastras very clearly what is Makar Sankranti, why does it happen, when does it happen, to the time. When does the sun rise? So today, yesterday we were following Ekadashi, so today fast breaking time. That's mentioned very clearly in the Shastras, and the rest of the world follows the Shastras. So we saw how leaders should behave, but we also see how the citizens have to behave, how people have to behave. As a normal citizen, as a sadhaka devotee, I need to follow the Shastras as set up by the leaders. That's one of the duties. When we talk about Guru Sadhu Shastra, the sadhu there is a leader. He's establishing the ways of working, and we have to follow it. Okay. The third lesson is a very, very important. The last lesson that we have here, it's a very nice and important lesson. This is how Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission is. Right? So if you see the purport, Srila Prabhupada is to give philosophers, scientists, and people in general the proper knowledge about the destiny of life. Right? So, and then he says everyone should take advantage of this moment and learn the real goal of life. Right? So, in the seventh canto, Prahlad Maharaj mentions Adhanta Kopir Vishatam Tamishram Puna Puna Charvita Charvananam. The people in general are struggling doing the same thing again and again and again. Puna Puna Charvita Charvananam. Right? So, chewing the chewed. They're saying, they have enjoyed the material rasa once. After that, they are trying to get the rasa, get the rasa, get the rasa. It's going nowhere. And these modern day philosophers, the scientists, they just deny the existence of God. It's just become so much of a godless society, right? So, what is that doing? It's just leading people to the most hellish planet. If you follow the right leader, the minimum guarantee is heavenly life. If you follow the modern day leaders, you are doomed to get into the Tamishram, the hellish planets, right? So who we follow is as important of what we are doing, and more importantly, it's a responsibility of each one of us to follow this mode and mission of Srila Prabhupada, to give this knowledge to everyone, for them to understand the destiny of life, understand the final destination in our life, the real goal of life. Right? It's our responsibility. And many times devotees have been doing this, right? So many times devotees have been trying to serve very nicely for this goal, right? So recently in our temple, they announced the book distribution score for the book marathon that just finished, right? So I think around the 11th of January. And the count is about 40,000 plus books, 40,000 plus Bhagavad Gita, or the Mahabooks, like they call it. I'm not sure if that's the Mahabooks or books, but 40,000 plus is the count from our ISKCON Sheshadipur, one small temple located in a place like Bangalore, where there's so much of competition within ISKCON, and there's so much of competition from outside influences, right? In such a place, if devotees can go ahead and do so many books, imagine what's happening across the world. What is the thing that Srila Prabhupada has set up? Such a wonderful thing in the society. And we doing our bit here, whatever one book that you have given, 25 books that you have given, or 30 books across the month, or 300 books that devotees have done, we have tried to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, to give everyone the real goal of life. Second part, the Srila Prabhupada does the secret of his success. He keeps mentioning the secret of my success is that I have served for the pleasure of my Guru. When you take your Guru's instructions, Guru's mood, Guru's goal as your goal of life, then you're bound to become successful. You're bound to become successful. That's the secret of Srila Prabhupada's success. That can also become the secret of our own success. Okay, so the only thing lacking in the society, like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura said, there's everything in the material world other than Krishna consciousness. So as always, whatever activity we do, we try to bring everyone to this Krishna conscious society, or we give them what is lacking, right? So it can be yajna, dana, tapa, whatever we done, the austerities that we follow, the charity that we give, if it is centered around Krishna, then we can create a society that is flourishing, right? So as simple as when husband and wife, so Srila Prabhupada mentions, when husband and wife cooperate with Krishna in the center, the family progresses. So does a temple, so does a society of Krishna consciousness, so does the city, states, and the whole world. And that's the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's a mission all our acharyas have followed. Right. So this one, if we take this modern mission of Srila Prabhupada and follow the other two things that we have discussed today, then we should be able to progress very nicely. So I would like to kind of wrap this up with a nice story that I heard from His Grace Hari Leela Prabhu. I think some of you would have heard this as well. How we can do all this, so being a right leader, following the Guru Sadhu Shastra, or trying to spread this Krishna consciousness. How can we do this properly? So he gives the example of my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj. So Harila Prabhu was talking about this, and he said that during COVID, there were many people um, who were dying within the society, outside Krishna consciousness. People were dying, people were becoming sick, and Guru Maharaj was very sad. No, Guru Maharaj usually has this habit of praying for everyone. So he calls Hari Leela Prabhu and said that I want to actually have give prayers to their lordships in Shita Mayapur. So can you draft the prayer? Okay. So Hari Leela Prabhu said, okay, prayer is very simple. Protect them, take care of them. Right. So he writes the prayer and goes back to Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj looks at it and he gives some corrections. Hari Leela Prabhu makes those corrections, goes back. Guru Maharaj looks at this iteration of can you fix this? Can you fix this? Keeps going on for some time. And Hari Leela Prabhu is now thinking, what did I do? It was such a simple activity. I just had to draft a prayer, give it to Guru Maharaj. He would place it at the lotus feet of Radha Madhav or Panchatattva, Narsimadev, and pray for them, right? So lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, and just pray for everyone. Why Guru Maharaj is doing so many iterations? Well, Guru Maharaj ensures, or like Harila Prabhu mentioned, Guru Maharaj ensures that not one of them in the prayers affects the supremacy of the Lord. Meaning, I'm not telling the Lord what needs to be done. I'm not asking the Lord to do something. I'm just saying, my dear Lord, if you so desire, please take care of these prayers. Right? That's the mood of Srila Prabhupada. Even in his sick bed, Srila Prabhupada always said, if his disciples, if they wanted to pray for Srila Prabhupada, they wanted to pray to Narasimhadev, or they wanted to pray to Krishna Balram or Radha Shyam Sundar, Prabhupada would always say, go to the Lord, say, my dear Lord, if you so desire, take care of my spiritual master. This prayer, my dear Lord, if you so desire, is very, very, very important. That's why we usually stick to the Vaishnava Acharya songs, right? So we don't take any other song because we don't know what's the mood. Our Vaishnava Acharyas had this mood. They would always tell, my dear Lord, if you so desire. So why we say this? Because in conclusion, we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto itself, this wonderful shloka that says, Ata Pumbir Dvijashreshta Varnashrama Vibhagasha Swanashtitasya Dharmasya Samshuddhir Haritoshanam. Samshuddhir Haritoshanam means for the pleasure of Hari. Haritoshanam, ultimate satisfaction. See, the perfection of one's execution of his appointed duties is the ultimate satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. whatever activities that we are doing, whatever sadhana that we are doing, whatever leadership role that we are doing, whatever preaching that we are doing, we should always have this fundamental understanding that this has to be done for the satisfaction of the Lord. Everything happens, everything depends on the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Samshuddhir Haritoshanam. Right? So if we don't have the right intention, if we don't have the good intention, irrespective of our efforts, we might not find success. As leaders, if our ideas fail, or if you see someone else is so successful, I am not, please understand the Lord is not very pleased with what we are doing. So there's a very simple measure as a takeaway. There's a very simple piece that we always have to remember, that how do I know the Lord is successful or Lord is happy with what I have done? How do I know my seva has been successful? It's very simple. The seva continues. You continue to be engaged in the service of the Lord. Anytime you are feeling disconnected from the services, please understand that there are activities that are not very pleasing to the Lord. The Vaishnavas are very merciful. They may not tell us. They may not openly tell us, or what will this person think, or they will be feeling that, okay, am I doing any Vaishnava aparad and so on, right? So they may avoid, but it is absolutely at the end of the day for the pleasure of the Lord, right? So these were the topics that were discussed in the purports that I could gather. So just a quick summary before we go into any questions that people have, right? So we saw about the importance that of leadership responsibilities, leadership role. So leadership is not a privilege, it's a responsibility, and leadership is done as a service. So we should follow that. We should follow Guru Sadhu Shastra, very, very important. The Vedic literatures that we spoke about, they are our guiding principles. And third, and most important, we follow in the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada. We take it as the goal of our life, the instructions of a spiritual master and the spiritual authority like Srila Prabhupada. Right, so that's what we had today. So I will pause here for any questions that anyone has. Any questions, any comments that devotees have?
No questions, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful session, Prabhu.
Thank you, Balaji Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandatana.
Anand Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful session, Prabhuji. Just a question. You spoke about leaders should, I mean, in ISKCON should help the common people like that. So are ISKCON devotees allowed to become like stand in elections like MLA, MP like that?
Very nice question, Prabhu. Why not? Why not? Right. So the answer is as simple as this. For the progress of people in general, we can take up leadership roles. In fact, many of our leaders today, the next gen devotees today, they should, in fact, take up those leadership roles in general public. Like when, let me take a very simple example. When a person, so I think you're from Sakanagar, you would understand this better, right? So we have this place near Bhairati Bande, wherein there are devotees who have taken up an apartment. So the apartment society that is formed is has some devotees. So what do? They celebrate Krishna Janmashtami. They did a Rath Yatra of Jagannath. They have Bhagavad Gita programs for them. Like a normal society, they go for outings. They do Diwali or year-end celebrations with drinks and with non-veg. These people, because they became leaders of that society, they are able to do it Krishna conscious way. They had the year-end program with Kirtan, with one katha from a brahmachari. They had prasadam that was served. I'm talking about small society. If that can be done, imagine how much big. If I'm not specifically saying good or bad, but if someone like Yogi Adityanath ji can become a chief minister wearing a saffron and spread his way of teachings to public, why should we not become? Right? So it's allowed, and you might start seeing that in a few years later, probably in the next coming decade, you might have some of the leaders who are very adherent followers of Krishna consciousness. I can expand if people don't have more questions. I can expand to this topic. When someone like superstar Rajnikant, right? So in Tamil Nadu, he became, for whatever reason, he actually ISKCON devotees approached him and he was favorable, and for some reason he actually started wearing a kantimala. Okay, the photo became famous, and the temples nearby, I heard this in Tirupati, so the temples nearby ran out of kantimala because common men like, okay, this person is doing, I will also do, right? So the influence that a leader in the society has is huge, and if that person is a devotee, then he can create a wonderful society. In fact, is to your question, can people become can devotees become leaders in the society? I would rather put it the other way around, what Srila Prabhupada desire as well, that we should have the society run by devotees. Run by devotees. That will create the ideal society. So I'm hoping I've answered this question, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yeah, very
Thank you,
nicely
Prabhu.
explained. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prabhu, just to add on this point, Prabhu, generally, some of the core Vaishnavas are the devotees, what they feel like if we get into politics or any other leadership, roles, so there are more chances that they can, compromise the Swarupa according to the the condition, the current condition, to maintain the party. And because politics is just not only the one angle now, Prabhu, it has other dimension as well. So they need to compromise certain things of their swarupa, so that reason also, people may not engage in such activities. Rather they do know how much ever they can, like as you mentioned, we can
Understood.
do each
Understood,
other's.
Balaji Prabhu.
Yeah, in that size, how do you look
So
at it?
yeah, yeah. The first thing that we need to understand is Jiver Swarupa and Nitya Krishna Das. This Swarupa of I am Nitya Das of Lord Krishna should not change, cannot change. Then you're not an ideal devotee, right? So there might be compromises to begin with. You cannot probably establish saying from tomorrow everyone will wake up for Mangalarti, everyone will chant. So there is a slow feeding that will happen, right? So not everywhere a hammer will work. Sometimes you will have to knock it down very slowly, or the slow injection that people will give. So the society may not turn tomorrow that, okay, tomorrow, let's say the chief minister of Karnataka becomes a devotee, or a devotee becomes the chief minister of Karnataka, then the whole state is going to change in the next coming days. No, it's going to happen gradually. But we are living in the golden era. We have in the very beginning of the golden era of 10,000 years, right? So if I mean, I'm a strong believer of what Srila Prabhupada says, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, right? So every Nagara Grama is going to have the holy name of the Lord. That is going to happen. We just have to be an instrument. It may not happen today, but our next gen, right? So your child, my child, if they become Krishna conscious leaders in the society, they can influence the society. And look at it 3 generations later. We might have leaders who are directing the entire society in Krishna conscious way. And that's what we should think about. It's not about today. Today we might have to do some certain compromises. When we do a Rath Yatra, we allow certain set of people coming and participating or not participating, singing things that are not Krishna conscious. But today we are okay. Today we invite those chief guests or whoever is required, or who may not be devotees. But few years later, when they become devotees, that's what we are trying to do, right? So it's not going to be your way or my way. It is going to be a gradual where everyone can be fitted in. And Srila Prabhupada created a society where the whole world can fit in. That's a strong belief. I think every Vaishnavacharya, it could be Sripad Ramanacharya, Sripad Madhvacharya, every Vaishnavacharya had this view that the whole world can fit into this society. That's how it is created. And it's
True,
our responsibility to play our role there.
true, bro. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you. Anyone else has any questions? Any comments on the class today?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Danta Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Thanks
Prabhu.
for a very wonderful class, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Yeah, Prabhu, just wants to know if at all one of the leaders becomes a Krishna conscious leader is there. So, what is the first thing you think that they should implement?
Nice question, Prabhu. So, first thing they should implement is why they became a leader. So, if someone becomes a leader, they would have had their right reasons for becoming a leader, right? So, today I'm not standing in an election to become a leader. So, at my capacity, if I become a leader, I'll have to see the bare minimum, people come to the mode of goodness, right? That's what Prithu Maharaj did. I'm just referring back to the shloka. Prithu Maharaj ensured that people were morally correct and economically safe. Then he gave the spiritual knowledge. So this is from my level of understanding, not coming from anywhere I've read or understood, but just the understanding that we have had from today, right? So when people are given the assurance that doing the right thing, morally being correct, is pleasing to the Lord, you will progress, and they will do the right thing. Today, the problem is our examples are all people who, or mostly people who have not been morally or ethically correct. And because they are successful, we see that, okay, if I do something wrong, it's okay. It's okay to cheat. It's okay to tell a lie. When telling a lie is such a common thing, I can lie. Why not? Right? So basically, getting people to the mode of goodness and pulling them up is probably what the leader should start with. This is my understanding. I don't have a Shastric reference to it. Just from today's shloka's understanding, I would probably say that.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji, very rightly said. I was thinking that even the like cow killing and intoxications, these things all are there because these are the basics that isn't it, Prabhu? Like
Understood,
Krishna.
Prabhu. See, there are nice point, Prabhu. I think the moment we start talking about Goraksha, uh, it's a very nice thing. Can it be implemented across the society? Let's see, right? So there are going to be takers and non-takers. The moment you start losing people, it'll become very difficult to start influencing others, right? So people will start looking for excuses. We have a couple of minutes. I'll give a very simple example. I have a very close friend, a colleague of mine, who said that just because BJP banned beef eating, he drove his car about 200 kilometers to a nearby town where they were serving beef. He said, how can they influence what I will eat today? Right? So he went there to have beef. Now, can you implement it across India at the same time? Can you stop non-veg across India being so-called, I will follow mercy and, Jive Daya, I will not let any jiva? It might practically be very difficult. But if you educate this person that cow killing is not just cow killing, animal killing for that matter is not good. It's not good for your own self. Then automatically, because there's no demand, the supply will stop. This is my take to it, right? So when people become morally and ethically sound, when they come to the mode of goodness, spirituality fits in very easily. Otherwise, they will look for excuses. So can I immediately set up a rule? I can when I have a smaller influence. If I have to, so today in ISKCON, Sheshatripuram, we have a community behind, right? So we have our apartment in the temple vicinity. So there is no non-veg, no drinks, no loud materialistic music. Ideally, devotees avoid onion, garlic, right? So there is a basically the society rule. It's easy to implement like that because it's a society centered around Krishna consciousness. When the city, the state, the country becomes centered around in, in, influencing these things becomes a lot easier. Otherwise, you will actually create divide in the society wherein you may not necessarily progress easily. But anyway, co-protection is our responsibility. I'll take your point as well.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you a lot. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Yes,
Thank you
Mataji.
very much. Very nice class.
Thank you, Mataji.
Um, I just one question.
Mhm.
Prabhu, you're talking about ISKCON people becoming leaders in the society.
Yes,
So
Mataji.
if they become leaders in the society, they are going to be in the limelight,
Yes,
isn't it? Okay,
yes,
so when they are in the limelight, ISKCON is going to be in limelight.
absolutely.
So isn't it first necessary for us as ISKCONians to be morally upright and act in an ideal manner?
Got your point, Mataji. Uh, got your point. Very nice point. I would probably put it very simple. The leaders have to be qualified leaders. It's not blindly saying that, okay, tomorrow Sanatan becomes a leader. I'm not qualified. I'm not supposed to take up that role. It has to be qualified leaders. And that's what is most important, right? So when you have the typical example, when you have a white dhoti and there is a small drop of blue ink fallen on it, people will look at that blue dot, not the white dhoti. It's the same thing. If your leader who is representing your society is not a qualified personality, then you can actually have a wrong influence or a wrong message going out to the society. That's why I said it may not happen today, tomorrow. It might take a few decades later, but 3 generations later, we should have the society which is run by these leaders, wonderful leaders who are devotees, right? Qualified leaders. You will see that quality being very, very important. That's why I think there's a lot of training that's happening, the leadership level trainings that are happening, where people are talking about next gen. Today, I mean, even GBC is thinking about it or talking about it. There are a lot of things that are going on in the society. Okay, we are actually up on time. Thank you so much for very actively participating, asking the right questions. Uh, uh, we are going to continue this series of classes. So devotees who are here for the first time, not Bhakti Vaibhav students, request you to please join in on these special sessions that we have in the coming couple of months, where we'll talk about very specific, takeaway instructions that are told by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, thank you all for joining. Granth
Thank you
Raj
so much,
Srimad
Gaura.
Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.